kind of interesting. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. And I know we want the entirety of cases and storylines around that to stay nice and clean and not have anything muddy or ugly or, sideshows and circuses here. But that's not what we're going to get. Karmelo Anthony, the man who stabbed and killed Austin Metcalf at the Frisco track meets just a little over a year ago, recently found guilty, sentenced to 35 years. He will serve at least half of that before he's eligible for parole. Now, an appeal's been filed. And there's been a couple of reactions to this. One of them is, okay, my reaction, your reaction probably. Yeah, we knew he was going to file an appeal. It's a murder. If you have an appeal, why not file it? But the other reaction is this insistence on coming up with some sort of way that Karmelo Anthony is innocent. Now, you probably don't know every detail of the story, but what you do know and what you have heard, it sounds like murder, cut and dry. Well, some people who are a little more tribal than the rest of us don't quite agree with that 100%. Case in point, let me show you a couple people from the podcast world. This is a lady named Shayla Sweat. She's got some new info that you might not have heard. That Karmelo Anthony may have been in a headlock. Austin Metcalf may have had him in a headlock when he stabbed him. Now, before I even play you the audio, a couple things you're already thinking that I'm going to confirm because I don't want you thinking about this during the audio. No, he wasn't in a headlock. Yeah, there were like 7 witnesses that testified who saw directly what happened, and none of them said he was in a headlock. They all told the same story. 5 of them were black. 2 of them were white. So, no, it's not a thing. But now that you don't have to worry about that, go to the next level. What the heck happened there? Go to the next level. Even if he was in a headlock, do you get to pull out a knife and stab a fella in the chest? So it's just the weirdest argument because they're saying something that didn't happen, that is easily disproven by anybody who's paying attention to the case, and then they follow it up with a conclusion that doesn't make sense either. And so the mental gymnastics are clear. They're not following any logic. They're not following any ontology. What's it called? Isn't that the study of logic? They're not following any of that. It's just whatever. The storyline is whatever is good for my tribe. Shayla Sweat. Now, hear the audio.
So the knife went through the heart wall, but she did not give a specific degree of measurement regarding the angle. She said it was an awkward angle. That's on the record. Now, let me tell you off the record what I have been told by a very reliable source. What I've been told is that Karmelo did communicate to his defense team that when he stabbed Austin Metcalf, Austin had him in a headlock. And that's why that could explain the angle of the wound, because he was in a headlock. That's off record.
He was in a headlock. Had you heard that? No, of course you haven't heard that. So it wasn't in the trial. There are a lot of people that were in the trial that were responding to that. In fact, a friend of the show, Sarah Fields, was one of the people responding. She's like, I was in the entirety of the trial. That did not happen. None of the witnesses said that. You were just making something up. But all the guests on the podcast are like, oh, yeah, I knew it. Even if he was in a headlock, you don't get to murder the kid. It's bizarre because there's nothing wrong with being proud of your tribe. There's nothing wrong with being proud to be black or being proud to be Hispanic or Asian American or Pacific Islander month or any of that. I mean, you can't be proud to be white because then you're an absolute demon Nazi and you need to go straight to hell. But there's nothing wrong with that. However, if your allegiance to your tribe is enough for you to excuse murder, now we have a problem. Lisa in Kennedale, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
Yes, my take on this is all that education and training and support that man had. Where did he get the idea that he can kill another student? This sounds like something else. I think they need to really have a spyglass on this situation. This sounds like an elitist trying to start a race war.
Lisa, why wouldn't he assume he learned his values from his parents?
Well, I'm just assuming that because that's what the lawyers said when they went to court, that he was trained and, he was doing all good in school, and which is fine and dandy. But I'm saying if he was so trained and all that and educated, and what made him think that he could kill another student, even if they were fighting?
Well, Lisa,
That's what I don't understand.
doesn't it make sense that if he had been raised from day one that white people are evil and he's perpetually a victim and he's been oppressed and his parents were oppressed, his grandparents were oppressed, his great-grandparents been oppressed, and he's living in a society that no matter how hard he tries or no matter how much he accomplishes, no matter how good he is or what level of merit he can achieve, he will never get a fair shake. I mean, that's what Michelle Obama's thesis at Princeton was about and something she believes today, even after she got to live in the White House for 8 years. So I don't think it's really that crazy to see young men lash out if they've been fed such a negative diet of a worldview their entire lives by overtly racist parents. And I think our greatest evidence of that is after their son did murder another human being for the lightest and most trivial of causes, they didn't go out and get a lawyer. They didn't go talk to their pastor. They went out and they got a race huckster. They went out and got a guy who has a nonprofit that's based on race, so that you know where their heart is. And so I think easily you can assume that that was passed along to Karmelo.
Well, I hear the word pastor in there. Okay. Thou shalt not kill. I mean, he's of age. I mean, he's not a baby. He's not a young kid that doesn't know right from wrong.
No, he thought what he was doing was right. He was trained that what he was doing was right. You're making the right conclusion. It's just hard to fathom, Lisa.
Well, yes, it is hard to fathom, and I still think that there's more behind this than that. I believe this was orchestrated by somebody, some elitist. And I can't
explain
tell
that.
You what race it is, but you could probably use your imagination. But I believe that this was orchestrated. I really do, and they should have a spyglass on this.
All right. Well, listen, we're not quick to
Right,
but we're not quick to dismiss conspiracy theories on the James Show here. So if we do go down that road, there are two people that really benefit from that. Democrats will benefit from it on a national sense because, you know, look how good the George Floyd riots did for their elections and their turnout in the 2020 cycle. So they could use a nice little race war, but also the race industrial complex could use it. You know, the Al Sharptons of the world. When's the last time he got a lot of airtime? Or, you know, a Benjamin Crump. There's that whole cottage industry for it. So there are a couple of people that would benefit from something staged like that. I just don't understand how they could set up something like a Frisco track meet, like, hey, let's pay your kid, or we'll give you a bunch of money if you can talk your kid into doing this. I don't know how they would execute it at the ground level, even though you're right, the motivations are there.
You know what? I would have had some sympathy for the family if they would have just said, we don't support what he did, you know, and don't accept any money.
Yeah.
I'd have more respect for them for that.
Agreed.
But my experience with human beings in this world, there are a lot of people in this world that'll throw their own people under the bus for money, okay? It's
that's
just
the truth.
Simple as that.
Well, Lisa, you were my first caller. You got us off to a good start. Thank you very much. Coming up next, I'm going to fulfill a promise I made to a caller on yesterday's show, Al, who said, you need to play more of the black commentators who are speaking out against the Karmelo Anthony team. And you know what? I will fulfill that promise coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, James Show listeners, are you in pain? Do you have a bad back? Do you have a bad elbow? Do you have a bad shoulder? I don't know. Maybe you pitched in community college, or maybe you have a manual labor job. However you have that pain, especially if your job depends on it, you might want to look into QC Kinetics, because that's a big part of their clientele. Some people like to get to sit in a cushy office and just talking to a microphone and climate control all day. Other people with more manly, demanding jobs actually have to use their body. And if you need to keep that machine going, QC Kinetics is a great option, because the problem with surgery is there's a lot of downtime. You have to take off of work. It hurts. There is a recovery time. There's stitches. You probably won't be able to work for a week or two after that, and you can't afford to miss work. So QC Kinetics might be the option that works best for you, guy with the manual labor job. So it starts with you making the phone call, 972-972-8610. 972-972-8610. All right, we're going to show some of the positive response to the Carmelo Anthony situation on the James Show. Newstalk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. And there was a caller who joined the show yesterday and said, I think you're doing us a disservice because there's a lot of black people who are against Carmelo Anthony. They think it was a murder and they're speaking out and you're not playing them. Well, I feel like I say that enough, but if somebody calls in and says that, then either I'm doing a bad job explaining my position or I should do it more often. Because whatever whether or not his criticism's right, the fact that he levied it means I'm doing something wrong. So I'll try and remedy that. Here's a guy that made my heart swell. But listen, if you have kids in the car who are about 11 or under, just come back in 3 minutes. Can you do me a favor? Because what I'm about to play is it's all beeped out and it passes FCC muster. FCC doesn't care if you say the A word. I'm not going to say it, but if it's in an audio clip, I'll let it fly. So this will be cool, but I'm not sure if all the moms will want their kids to hear this, but it's legal. But so the guy's name is Ivan. His last name's Arrogant. So you get it? I've been arrogant. So it's like a clever marketing name because it sticks with you. Anyway, Ivan, I-B-E-N. He says, yeah, Karmelo's a victim. He's a victim of the hateful culture that his parents instilled in him.
Karmelo Anthony was a victim. He was a victim. He was definitely a victim. A victim of y'all stupid, ignorant ass and y'all up mentality and culture that we are instilling into our youth. The dumb who get in my comment sections and other comment sections and will deny that was wrong. They will make excuse after excuse where he shouldn't have put his hands on him. Karmelo is a child who is a victim of that ignorant mentality, that ignorant culture, that stupid that is instilled into our youth, especially our young black boys, that trick them every time into the very system that y'all complain about, to throw their lives away and give that good old sweat equity to the man with a smile on their face because they had to stand on business and now their freedom is gone. Y'all are raising these little gorilla-minded. It's y'all. All these issues will always be traced back to y'all raggedy ass, ignorant ass, stupid ass parenting.
So, told you that was a little coarse, but the point stands. It's kind of what I was saying, but, it's being voiced by a different part of the community, so maybe that is more impactful to some of the people listening. Of course, it shouldn't be, but it is nice to hear. I see a lot of this. In fact, I have a few more to play, but let me do one more from Ivan here. And Ivan points out something that I've heard other people say. Black callers have called into my show and said this. If that's the mentality Karmelo Anthony had, where he's willing to stab someone for pushing him in the shoulder, even if you think it's not murder, even if you think that was, well, that might have been an overreaction, but he had to do something. He was eventually going to go to prison if that's the way he was living his life, because someone at some party or maybe at an Airbnb in West Dallas was going to smudge his Pumas, and then they were going to pull out a gun and, well, I can't be disrespected. Making a good point. If this is the way you live your life, you're going to end up in jail eventually.
Karmelo is a victim of that. He's a victim of that. That boy stood no chance. Because if it didn't happen at that track meet, it was going to happen somewhere else. Because that's what his parents taught him what to do. It would have happened at his job. Because somebody touched him at work. And he going to stab him up. He going to take their life. Because he shouldn't have touched me. I told him not to touch me. Because in the black community, if somebody say, touch me if you want to, you better not touch me. That means that's a warning. That's a warning. In the black community, in African American vernacular, that means don't touch me. Touch me if you want to. See what happens. Yeah. And in the real world, when you do that, you go to jail, stupid.
All right, so that's Ivan Arrogant. Garrett, you're not allowed to do that voice on the air or off. I know. Stop it. Chris in Royce City, you're next up on Newstalk 820 93.3 FM WBAP.
James, I am going to lean into this one hard. Oh, my gosh, you have set me up like nobody else.
Okay.
So I'm going to build off of the lady and Ivan there, the first caller and Ivan there. So first things first, nobody's ever answered why he had that knife at a function, a school function. There's been nothing on it. I mean, we all know, okay, he had it, but why did he have it at a school function?
Well, listen, he had to protect himself because white people are constantly murdering black people at track meets.
But you can't go to the adults. You can't go to the adults. So anyway, let's get by that. But the fact of it is, Ivan was saying, oh, his parents are doing this, his parents are doing that. I can almost bet you, just looking at the actions of the parents, they bought a new house, they bought a new car, the mom got a nose job. They didn't hire, like a normal family would, a good lawyer to defend their son. They let the state do it. These people set their son up, these parents set their son up to take the fall so that they could become rich and famous.
Okay, but I mean that doesn't really have a bearing
guarantee
on whether or not he's innocent or guilty. You're just saying
And of course he's guilty.
the parents have
I mean, it's,
proven what kind of great people they are.
but I'm telling you, they set him up. They set him up, and they got him to do this because that kid went to an opposite tent. I used to be in track when I was in high school. That kid, you had your group. You did not want anybody else in your group because, again, black, white, I don't care. You don't know who that person is. They could be a klepto. They could be there to cause problems. It doesn't matter their race. You're not from our school. You go to your school. We had buses instead of tents, and we didn't have, unless they were somebody that transferred. We didn't have anybody else on that bus.
Chris, we all agree. You're preaching to the choir, bud.
But I'm telling you, the parents goaded, set this kid up, told him how to do it, whatever you want to say.
Okay, but Chris,
set that kid up.
Let me get you worked up a little bit more. Let me wind that little screw in the back of you here. How many parents do you think are raising their kids with that mindset? Because it makes big news here in the Frisco track meet, but it's the same mindset that happened at the Airbnb in West Dallas where there was a party and someone got disrespected, so they shot up the place and like 5 people had to go to the hospital.
You're let me be a little racist here. You're white, I'm white. All right, well, fine. But do you teach your kids, hey, if somebody steps on your foot, you shoot them?
Well, absolutely not. I mean, but that's not how Alan West
into you.
Yeah, but that's not how Alan West raises kids. That's not how like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air raises kids. That's not how most black people raise their kids. But some of them do.
But what percentage do you think raise their kids like you and I would? You know, what's the percentage? And then you've got to figure out, all right, you know, because I tell my buddy all the time, man, I treat people like I would want to be treated, you know? And I expect that they're on the same level I am as far as intelligence and stuff like that. He's like, man, you're wrong. You're wrong. Those people, most people, when you look at them, they're below your intelligence. Think of it, and it's like, no, you know, so the thing of it is, these people, blacks, whites, we're not treating our kids the same. White people are treating everybody. Treat everybody as you want to be treated. Blacks, to me, I've come across a lot of them, and they are not treating they're not treating.
Yeah, but what about the guy? I just played audio from Ivan. I bet you he raises his kids like we raise ours. I bet you Alan West raised his kids.
Minority, and they're in the minority.
We don't know that.
You.
No, we just see the news of the ones that make that do the crimes. I think,
and they've stopped reporting on the blacks shooting blacks in Chicago, Detroit.
Right, but we still know the numbers.
New York.
Listen. The highest estimate is 30% of black men will go into the prison system at some point in their life. That means 70% of them are being raised correctly. So it's an overwhelming majority. The number just seems higher because of the tragedies and the big stories it makes. What do you mean I can't say that? That's the number.
30, all right. That I'm not arguing the numbers, but you're saying 70% are treating their children the way we do.
Well, they're not criminals.
That's 70%. That's not criminals. You're right. That doesn't mean that they're being
okay. All right, Chris.
Taught.
Great points. Great points. I just got to let him do the news here.
Hey, man, you have a good one.
Thank you, sir. All right, well, it's good discussion here. Coming up next, I'm going to address an angry caller from yesterday. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Answering the Carmelo Anthony critics or supporters, really. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show. News Talk 820 933 FM WBAP. Yesterday on the James Show, we had a caller, Tormaine, and I really enjoyed this call. I plucked it out, edited it down to 2 minutes, and put it online. And I'm not saying it went like hyper viral or exploded or anything, but it's our most popular video since that guy called in and cussed me for fussing at Garrett. Well, we got a fun show over here. No, but real quick, just so I can respond to this, if you didn't hear it yesterday, this was Tormaine. So do you think it was appropriate for Carmelo Anthony to stab him in the heart?
It's appropriate to defend yourself. Now,
so that's a yes. Do you think Carmelo Anthony was defending
I
himself?
said it's appropriate to defend yourself. Yeah, he was defending himself.
Okay, so that's the rule of association. You think that wasn't a murder?
Everybody testified that they came. The boys.
Tormaine, if I come push you, here's I'm running out of time here. If I come push you on the arm, can you stab me in the heart and kill me?
If you push me on the arm,
yeah.
You know, first of all, I got better judgment.
Yes or no, sir?
And I could handle.
Yes or no, sir?
And it's not a very fine line, because once you say that, now you're saying he's a murderer. Okay, let's say he's a murderer.
Tormaine, let's go back to my question. If I push you in the arm, can you stab me in the heart?
You even went as far as saying something about the Central Park Five.
Yeah, they're all guilty. Tormaine, if I push you in the arm, they are.
The DNA evidence was on Merritt, whatever his name is.
Let's not get into that. I want to go back to my question. I'm really interested in this question. I'm really interested.
You targeting? Nah, you don't.
Hang on, Tormaine. If I push you in the arm, are you justified in stabbing me in the heart and killing me?
If you violate my space, I could do. I'm gonna put my hands back on you. Now, if there's an item,
if I push you in the arm, are you justified in stabbing me in the heart and killing me?
This is stand your ground.
Is that a yes?
Stand your ground state.
So we can assume that's a yes?
So, all right, I got one.
Just say, damn it, yes. Just stand on your principles, bro. Just admit it. Just admit it. You're okay with murder.
It ain't a cut and dry thing.
You hear that? He's okay with murder. I mean, you see that as murder. They don't see it as murder. He doesn't see it as murder. So do you think it was? There you go. All right, let me play, just to do the balance, I promised yesterday, let me play another viral video from someone who is on the other side. Now, this is a black woman. Not that it's important, her race, but she's taking the opposite side of this argument. And she's tired of hearing, how are you a black conservative? She throws that back at him. How are you a black Democrat?
How are you a black conservative? How are you a black Democrat? You mean the same party you say has been helping you for decades, but your communities look worse, not better? You mean the same party that started the Ku Klux Klan and somehow convinced you they're your savior? You mean the same political machine where LBJ, after signing the Civil Rights Act, said they're going to keep these voting for generations? 62 years later, and you're still predictable. They dangled a black male president in front of you that did nothing for black people and everything for gay people, and a black female president that advertised to you with white people tacos and Megan Thee Stallion twerking on stage. And you never stopped to question that? They told you they were fighting poverty, but really they went and knocked on the doors of black families and told them that if they got rid of the man in the household, they could have this money and what we now know as the welfare system. They strategically demolished the nuclear family, leaving over half of the mothers in our community single mothers for generations, policies that incentivize broken homes, dependency instead of independence. They made it so you systematically rely on them, and now over half of the black households are dependent on the government. And they tell you crime is someone else's fault, while your neighborhoods keep getting worse in the very cities that they run. They build organizations, collect millions of donations, and somehow your community is still struggling while that money goes to $1 million homes, DoorDash, and new cars. And now they've got you fighting for illegal immigrants that take your jobs and have been killing your people, and they still give you nothing. So let me ask you again, how are you a black Democrat?
Another great demonstration of the back and forth on the both sides of this story here. And really, I find this more interesting and more impactful than the story of the trial and the case itself. That seemed cut and dry. That seemed like, yeah, that's murder. You can't stab someone in the heart for pushing your arm. Being under the tent or whatever, it shouldn't matter. The race thing didn't matter. But now this discussion we're having afterwards, this is interesting because we're attempting to have a dialogue, but there seems to be this pattern of either misunderstanding or intentionally seizing on obviously wrong information in order to what? Avoid actually having the dialogue. So here is Sunny Hostin on The View. She said about 8 things in a row that were just wrong about the Karmelo Anthony trial. And I don't mean opinion wrong, but just factually wrong. And Jason Whitlock on his show broke it down. So you're going to hear from Jason Whitlock's show where he plays a clip of Sunny Hostin, and then he explains why she's wrong.
The kid that died, that kid was 200 pounds. This kid was 130 pounds.
That is lie number one. Sonny Hostin is a certified idiot. Karmelo Anthony, by his own account, high school football player, listed at 5'11", 160 pounds.
He was the only black kid under the tent.
Sonny, it's a track meet. Hello? Track meet. They run the 100-meter dash. They long jump. All of those events are generally dominated by black kids. Sonny, you're an idiot. Lie, distortions, uninformed. It's a group of babbling idiots that we allow on TV to spread bad information about racially divisive stuff. They're there to promote ignorance.
All right, coming up next, you're going to meet one of the lawyers in the Dream Team. There's 6 lawyers that have stepped up, and they're going to unify their efforts to make sure Karmelo Anthony gets justice in the appeals process, but one of them already has an arrest record, and I have the audio from the news when he got arrested. What was that, 11 years ago? You'll hear that next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Wait till you meet one of the lawyers on Carmelo Anthony's dream team. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Look, it doesn't matter to the case. It has no bearing on whether or not the guy is innocent or guilty. But it is just fun to see all the clowns in the circus here be exposed. And if you're not familiar with the story, Carmelo Anthony, the guy that just got found guilty, sentenced to 35 years in prison for the stabbing death of Austin Metcalf at the Frisco track meet. He has an appeals process, and since he had a free lawyer during the trial, I don't know why they're not just sticking with the previous team, but now they've assembled a new dream team of lawyers, the Justice League or something. Social Justice League? Maybe that's what we should call them. Huh? Write that one down, Garrett. That's a keeper. But now we have 6, count them, 6 lawyers that have stepped up and decided that this case was so important that they were going to do some pro bono work. Now, before I introduce you to old Justin here, where were these people during the original stabbing, during the original arrest, arraignment, during the original trial? You know, before there was a national story and there was a big fat spotlight on it? Before all the media was swirling around, before it was talked about on CNN and M. Snow and Fox News, and before all that, where were y'all? You weren't interested in the case then, but you are now. Now it's really important. Yeah, that's not suspicious at all. All right, so the ninjas online have done their digging. They found some dirt on one of the dream team, Justin Moore. Here's a report from our news partner, WFAA, back in, I think this is 2015.
In the early hours of January 4th, Justin Moore was 6 months in as a Dallas County Assistant DA. He was the head of his own nonprofit for mental health and one day shy of his 28th birthday. But none of that helped him as he sat in the car seen through the lens in this dashcam video. Around 2:30 a.m., Dallas police pulled Moore over on 67 near Ledbetter for swerving through lanes.
I did like 110 to catch up to him because he was flying.
Officers say they can smell alcohol on his breath, and minutes later, you hear Moore try to tell them who he is.
We got an assistant district attorney out here, and I'd just like to have a supervisor out here because he's threatening us, saying I'm going to get fired for arresting me and all this and that.
In the video, you hear police eventually move Moore to the back of the squad car as his is towed away. Moore claims his arrest comes down to race.
Are you guys running the clearance? You guys KKK? This Uncle
You can hear officers remind him he's being recorded, but in the moment, he seems to defiantly accept his fate.
I hope I get fired. I don't want to be a part of Dallas County with this. Have this is on camera too.
It was, and he was fired. There's no trace of that nonprofit, and now this video serves as a reminder of how quickly an accomplished life can change. In Dallas, Marie Saavedra, Channel 8 News.
Are you in the Klan? Are you in the KKK? So he's drunk. He's 27. He's already got a job as an assistant attorney for the county. He's already got an air quotes nonprofit for mental health. He's got a Leering Center is what he's got. Look, a 27-year-old attorney with all this going on, driving 110 miles per hour on a Saturday night, drunk off his butt. He doesn't have time for that nonprofit is a vehicle for grift. And you know it because it went away the second his connection to power went away. So this guy has been a shady, sketchy swamp dweller since day one. He's perfect. He's perfect for the team. What could possibly go wrong? Brian in Fort Worth, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I listen to your show every day, and I've heard these people, like the last caller that you had on, they keep throwing that stand your ground state up. And I don't think that people understand what that law means.
Nah, we do. We do.
I've been a licensed.
Look, we know what they really think too. They're not saying that because this is their understanding of the principles of the law. They are coming to that conclusion because that's what's best for their tribe, and they're motivated by race. So they're going to take the black guy's side over the white guy's side. Doesn't matter the mental gymnastics, the lies, whatever they have to accept, the cognitive dissonance they have to suppress. That's what it's all about, and we see it, Brian. We know that's not stand your ground.
and I get what you're saying. I just think that somebody needs to educate them and let them know that you have to meet with whatever is coming towards you.
Brian,
That's what you come back at with, you know.
Brian.
So anyway, just wanted to, yeah.
No, you're too logical. You make too much sense, and solving their misunderstanding of the stand your ground principle isn't the problem. It's this whole hate whitey diet that they've had their entire life. I think that's probably the bigger issue.
Love the show, man. Love the show. Appreciate you letting me speak.
Oh, you're so nice. Thanks for listening, Brian. I'm going to squeeze in one more, even though Garrett's looking at me funny. Bobby and Brown. Is this Bobby Brown? It says Bobby in Brown.
No, it's Bobby in Brownwood.
Okay, I misunderstood that. Go ahead, Bobby and Brownwood.
I'm just getting a kick out of all these folks that have all these problems with excessive force from police, but now they're justifying excessive force. And the hypocrisy is just hilarious.
Well, it's not hypocrisy if you understand their worldview. They are tribally minded. This is what's good for their tribe. This is not what's right. This is not what's just. This is not what's fair or equitable. They're just taking the side because he's black.
Well, they can keep going to jail, but you have to be in justifiable fear of your life to kill someone. And that's not the case there. That was a sneak attack.
Well, I also love the idea that they think this is justified. Like he had some reason to fear for his life. In your entire life, has a white guy killed a black guy at a track meet? The answer is no. I looked it up. I looked it up 10,000 times before I said that on the radio because I didn't want to look like a fool there, Bobby. But also, there was some
bruises. But not,
right?
not death out of what was going on.
There hasn't even been like a misplaced javelin accident where a black guy's been killed by a white guy at a track meet. But also, Bobby, when I was in New Orleans, I was on the radio there for like 11 years at this one station. And it started out, we had a partnership with the local newspaper where, if I needed some crime statistics, I could talk to their stats guy. And I asked him one time, I was like, when was the last time a white person murdered a black person in New Orleans? Because I can't find it on your website. I can't find it in your database anywhere. And he's like, I don't know. I'll ask our research team. The research team declined to look it up. So I tried to find the answer to that question for the last 5 years I was in New Orleans. I come here, same question. Ever since I've been on here, has one black person been murdered by a white person since I've been on WBAP? Not that I've noticed. When was the last time it happened? Amber Geiger, maybe? And that was just an accident. And a terrible tragedy, and it was at least manslaughter, if not murder. But I mean, that's the only example I have. So I'm just saying, like this whole you should be scared of white people. It's totally not founded in truth. 800-288-9227. More on the Karmelo reaction next on Newstalk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, whatever happened to that hate crime that happened in East Texas? You know, the free Karmelo beating? I'm James Parker. It's the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Oh, you think I'd forget? No, I'm not going to forget. For those of you who aren't familiar with this non-story, over the weekend, a young lady named Sammy Lee was walking to her car from the bar. It's called Whiskey J's, and it's in Longview. That's out by Bug Tussle. Sometimes I refer to it as Hooterville, which was not. I lived there actually for a little while when I was in college. But, yeah, I hung out actually across the street from there, a couple more bars. But the parking lot at Whiskey J's was a little too dangerous for her. There was, it's only described as a group of black women who just set upon her. She's a little girl. She's 5'3", looks like maybe 120 pounds. She looks little. And they beat her up. And witnesses say that the girls were screaming, "Free Karmelo." And one of the witnesses said the girls were looking for the smallest white girl they could find. Sounds like a pretty cut and dry hate crime, right? Well, there's evidence that someone beat her up because she had to go to the hospital. She had black eyes. She had a cut above her eye. She had all kinds of bruising and abrasions. And she had a big gash on the back of her head, kind of the top back of her head. And it was split open pretty good. They had to shave her head and give her staples to close the injury. It was so big. And she shared out all the injuries and stuff online. So either we have a sort of Jussie Smollett situation where someone pretended they got beat up, which is a pretty interesting story, or we have a hate crime, an anti-white, racially motivated hate crime based off antipathy toward the Karmelo Anthony case. Media doesn't seem to care. That's now almost a bigger story than the actual whooping itself. Somebody got beat up, and somebody has now been arrested. We have mugshot. Reports are, I got this from Sarah Fields, who has, she's a human, so she gets some things wrong sometimes, but she's more reliable than apparently most of the media around here. So now we have a mugshot. We have actually at least one person in jail. I found this out yesterday. Did they pick up any of the other, at least 2 girls? Because if it's a group, I'm assuming it's 3 or 4 or 5. But it's not 1 or 2. That wouldn't be a group. That would be 1 or that would be a couple. So it's at least 3. And the absolute absence of journalistic curiosity here should make you sick. Because remember, they were reported on a racial gesture that was made at a Stars game in December. They reported on that in April to make sure that justice was done. That was newsworthy. So what's the journalistic standard here? Racism is only newsworthy if it makes white people look bad. Because that's the fact pattern. That's the worldview. If you want to get rid of all the cognitive dissonance here, I can play you the report. But also a lot of people are saying, well, there's just no evidence. Well, the girl got beat up. How much evidence do you need? Oh, well, I mean, did you talk to any of the witnesses? Did you talk to any of the witnesses? Did the newspaper try and talk to any of the witnesses? Has anyone called the police station and got the police report and tried to track down and do any shoe leather like you do on every other story? Is there really not a story here? Or is there not an effort for there to be a story? Because I talked about this and on the James Show, almost immediately, I had a guy called in saying his daughter was one of the friends that was with Sammy Lee. So we can go back to the James Show on Monday. This is just a short clip from Monday's show, but this is still evidence here that there is an anti-white hate crime connected to the Karmelo Anthony case. Isn't that newsworthy as well? Doesn't that make it, kind of a higher priority of interest? This would go viral. This would be good for your ratings. This would be good for your social media numbers. The only reason you're not reporting on it is because your political narrative, your dishonest political narrative now. Lies of omissions are still lies. So let me play you another piece of evidence here. We've got a mugshot. We have photos of the injury. We have her personal statements online. And I had this caller on Monday's show, Jason in Haltom City. You're on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP.
Good afternoon, James. I just wanted to let you know that the story about Sammy Lee is 100% accurate because my daughter is the friend who was with Sammy that night.
Okay, so what do I not know? What have I not said on the radio so far? You're a perfect guy to talk to right now, Jason.
You pretty much have nailed most of what I know. I haven't personally talked to Sammy. Sammy has spent many nights in my house. My daughter and her met in college, and they're good friends. And they're both of legal drinking age and legal going to the bar age and things like that. I know for my daughter, she is extremely shook up. You know, she's very lucky she wasn't assaulted as well. She was trying to pull them off of Sammy, and thankfully some very kind men showed up at the scene very quickly and helped get that separated. But they were asking my daughter if she wanted some too, and that sort of thing. But Sammy did get injured pretty bad, and they're both scarred mentally for that. They're both, small town girls, not used to that sort of thing, just going out and having fun and not used to having to deal with, hatred and violence to that.
Jason, is there any insight on why they targeted Sammy?
As you said earlier, and what my daughter has told us, is that they were looking for a small black girl.
But how do y'all know that? Did they say that out loud? Because that seems to be a weird thing to say when you're beating someone up.
So my understanding is that was on some sort of social media shortly thereafter, and even possibly prior to.
Okay.
They were basically out hunting, like they were out like hunting.
Yeah. So did your daughter hear them say "Free Karmelo"?
She 100% heard them say that.
All right. So that was Jason in Haltom City. 800-288-9227. Yeah. So I guess the lesson here is, you got to have a talk with your kids. If there's a racial hate crime that's committed against my kids, no one's going to care. Media's not going to pick it up. Y'all will ignore it. Y'all will bury it. But then the slightest of offense from anybody in my tribe makes news. Do I have to play the story of the Stars Nazis again? For those of you who aren't regular listeners, there was a ridiculous thing that happened in April where they tracked down some guys who made what could be a racial gesture at a Stars game back in December. This was in April. They're like, oh my gosh, we can't stand racism so bad. We've got to punish these guys who did a racial gesture. Meanwhile, free Karmelo, beating the snot out of a little 5'3" girl, putting her in the hospital, had to get staples in her head. We don't care about that racism. We don't care when you get beat up. We don't care when you get oppressed. We don't care when the hatred and the violence is directed at you. We only care about it when it makes you look bad. Well, I think it's a pretty sick way to run your media outlets, people. I'm James Parker. This is The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Why won't the media report on the Sammy Lee race or hate crime, I should say? I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP, your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. And they're not going to have this story because it hasn't been picked up in the media. This happened here in East Texas weekend. Cute little 5'3" girl was leaving the bar, and she got set upon by at least 3 black women. They were screaming, free Karmelo. So it's a Carmelo Anthony hate crime. Remember how hate crimes make the news? Well, this one's not making the news. Why is that? And I think we all know what it is, and we're all tired of saying it. We know if the roles were reversed, this would be the top story. There'd probably be riots all the way through the election night about this. But it's kind of sick. It's a sick paradigm that we should not accept. If racism is news, then racism needs to be news. If it's only racial news, if it makes white people look bad, well, then that's not a cool way to arrange your newscast. That's actually propaganda, and that's pretty hateful and racist itself. That's not bringing the world together. That's not bringing our society together. That's not bringing the races together. In fact, it's driving us apart. And so we have a girl who was beat up. We have evidence. We have pictures. We have an arrest of her attacker. We had a caller call in and confirm that his daughter was a witness. They did say free Karmelo while they were beating her up. So black on white hate crime. How bad does it have to be? How bad does the black on white hate crime have to be before the media will stop ignoring it? Because we haven't reached that boundary yet. That should bother you. Michael and Capel, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
Okay, I've been waiting for you to hit this subject today.
Good.
So you said the local media, 4, 5, and 8, I guess, haven't picked up the story?
Well, also there's 3 newsrooms in Tyler. There's news affiliates there that I kind of expect them to pick it up too, and they haven't either. I'm kind of iffy on the local guys here because what happens out in Bug Tussle is pretty easy to overlook. So my problem is no one has picked it up.
Okay, including your newsroom.
My newsroom here.
They didn't pick up the story. The first time I heard about it other than from you was this morning on the morning show. Now, I've been listening to the morning show since Dick Siegel was flying a helicopter and Hal J was spinning sleazy songs by Conway Twitty.
Hey, okay? Yeah.
That's what Hal said that one time. I've never forgotten it. Anyway, a long time I've been listening. I listen to the morning show every day. This morning, Carla brought it up, and she mentioned that this girl was attacked by a group of girls who were yelling free Karmelo, but she could not bring herself to say that they were black girls. And then Ernie piped up and said, well, we got to be really careful about this story because look at what happened with Juicy Smollett. So Juicy Smollett says he was attacked by white people. That story was around the world faster than the speed of light.
Well,
because now we're talking about black people, we got to be real careful before we say anything against black people. And I was really wondering if they were just afraid to mention that they were black because they were going to get called racist. But I was really, really, really disappointed with your morning show guys today.
Well,
really disappointed.
Well, look, that's understandable. It's not a good paradigm. We don't agree with the paradigm, but we still have to live under that as media personalities. It's not fair. It's not right. But losing our jobs isn't going to help anything. So
I understand.
So listen. Here's something positive. The newsroom at WBAP lives by a different set of rules than James Parker and the James Show. They actually have to have some things confirmed. Either another journalistic outlet has to report on the story, or we have to have someone who does that legwork. We have to have someone that contacts the police department. Then they got to wait to get the email back, and then they have to confirm it themselves. And there's a whole lot of legwork that has to go through to where we kind of rely on local newsrooms to pick this stuff up, so we don't have to go do all that legwork. We can just say KLTV reports on it. But since I started talking about this on the James Show, I don't know if this is divine providence, but I actually double checked some of the TV stations out in Bug Tussle, and one of them reported on it at 2:46 today. So, yeah. So is that third? Yeah.
Okay. Can I talk about one other thing that just came up in the news?
All right, Michael. Super quick though.
Nancy Guthrie. When that was going on, I called you weeks into it and said that she was probably accidentally died after she's being kidnapped, but we don't know because they don't ever tell us everything. Now it's been released that Savannah offered money to whoever to return her mother's body because within 2 weeks she got a letter saying that she actually died while we were kidnapping her.
All right. Well, thanks for the update, Michael. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. All right, well, this story is evolving while I'm talking about it. Let me review this initial report. This is the first time I've seen a major media outlet report on the Sammy Lee hate crime attack. Let me see how they frame this. And then after this, I'm going to see if this could very well get picked up and take off from here. So I'll give you an update in about 4 minutes on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, you're about to be disappointed by the media finally acknowledging hate crime here in Texas. I'm James Parker. This is The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. It's the story of Sammy Lee. Now, we were talking about the Karmelo Anthony reaction earlier, but this sort of dovetails right into the Sammy Lee story because as she was leaving the bar this weekend in Longview, the little place called Whiskey J's, she was attacked by a group of black females screaming, "Free Karmelo." Witnesses say that they specifically said that they were looking for the smallest white girl that they can find. So we have a racially motivated hate crime where this woman ended up with staples in her head banged up against the asphalt. She has a black eye. She has a neck brace on. She has a cut above her left eye. She has blood all over her hair, all over her shirt. The pictures are online. We now have the mug shots of one of the women arrested. And so there's no doubt that this happened. There may be a Jussie Smollett situation where did she stage this? Because she got the snot beat out of her if it was staged. I'm starting to doubt that. Is she lying about the racial aspect of it? Did they really say free Karmelo? Well, I had a caller on Monday's show say his daughter was with her and confirmed that. So at worst, we have a Jussie situation. But a fake race hoax is still a newsworthy story. So I've made the complaint. I've put the local media on watch. Finally, here it is. What is it, Wednesday? We get our first report on it, 2:46. So just, 30, 40, 50 minutes ago, KLTV in Bug Tussle put a report on their website only. So the questions we're looking for, I'm sorry, I don't mean to let you down. I feel bad. I hate telling you bad news. Are they going to mention it was racially motivated? Are they going to mention the race of the perpetrator and or the race of the victim? Are they going to include the free Karmelo part? Are they going to include the witnesses saying we're targeting a white girl part? Let's see, shall we? I can read you the whole report because it's only 4 sentences long. Now, again, I'm not really that upset because it's better than no report at all, but here it is. A Longview woman has been arrested in connection with a reported assault outside of a nightclub. According to Longview Police Department spokesman Ladarian Brown, the arrest is related to an assault reported Sunday outside of a nightclub, the 300 block of Spur 63 in Longview. I don't want to say her name. 21 of Longview has been charged with assault causing bodily injury. Fine, I'll say her name. Sierra Ann Blank has been charged with assault causing bodily injury and booked into Gregg County Jail on a $20,000 bond. Brown also confirmed that Longview Police Department will be giving a statement to the media about the reported assault at 4 p.m. on Wednesday. Okay, little optimism for a statement to the media. I think they may have to bring up the racial angle on this because why else would you talk to the media? You don't talk to the media anytime there's someone that gets beat up in the parking lot of a bar. So maybe this is the beginning of this actually being reported on. But look at how quick they reported on Jussie Smollett. A totally not believable story. By all accounts, I don't even have to recount to you. But in your entire life, no one has ever said this is MAGA country while beating someone up, or period. No one's thrown bleach on each other in some sort of anti-textile bigotry. No one's put a noose around someone's neck while beating them up in the street. But all three of those things magically happen at 1:30 in the morning when it's negative 19 degrees in a gay affluent part of Chicago. Not believable. Frank in Waco, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
Hey, man, I want to thank you for hammering this home. Hammer it to the end of the earth. And I'll tell you another thing. There's a swath of this country that's sitting on the edge of their seats, been watching this play out forever, and nobody's doing anything about it. And, eventually we will. And that's what's going to happen.
Frank, I'm also hearing the opposite. Christine on the last break sent me a Facebook message that says the opposite. She says, James, I love your show, but we need to move on from this topic. The conversations are not constructive or solution oriented. Every day it's about race. You have a great ability to play devil's advocate, blah, 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 case closed. So yeah, I'm hearing the opposite too, though, Frank. You want me to stay on it and hammer it. Some other people are like, you need to move on.
No, absolutely not, sir. This is evil. This is indoctrination 100 times over, that this is just like what I read in Rules of Radicals Forever that I thought could never possibly be. Over a long period of time, indoctrination, hatred developed.
Man, did you really read that whole book?
No.
Okay, I tried to read it before, and I don't want to say it's gobbledygook, but like if you think sort of the woke style of speaking is bad, you can tell where they get it from. Also, like I read the what's the fascist one that Giovanni Gentili wrote with Mussolini, the fascist whatever, their founding document. I tried to read that, and it's not long either. It's only like 14 pages if it's single space printed out. And it's so hard to read because it just like it doesn't make sense. There's like they throw out a false premise and then they keep building on this false premise and
that's the whole point of it. But I don't mean to interrupt, but you're reading this, you're looking at this, you're looking at what's happened in history, and you're thinking to yourself, that's impossible. And the only reason we have a chance is because this country's so big that we'll get around at what's happening. And God forbid, I'm not a racist. I'm a son of the Confederate veterans. I know the truth about all that. My best friend at work is a black guy. But if this keeps up, it keeps on and on and on, I mean, something's got to give. No authorities are going to do
Well, Frank,
anything.
here my advice, let's see how Britain's handling this because they're further down the gravy train of unfettered immigration and cultural mismatch, and we'll see how restored Britain goes. That might be our archetype here. Gary in Midlothian, you're on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP.
Yeah, here's my observation. Going into black communities, there's some areas in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that are heavily concentrated black communities, and I personally won't go there. I don't want to shop there because I don't want any trouble. And my message to those small business owners in those communities is if this could just stop and the hate could stop, I think that they would realize more business, but I just won't go shop in areas that are heavily concentrated or what they refer to as the hood. I heard one of your callers the other day, the guy normally calls in and saying, man, I made it out of the hood. I'm doing better. Okay, well, that should be your first clue. You're out of the hood. Don't have a hood. In other words, I won't go to the hood because I don't want something to happen to me or my family. But I mean, it's already, as far as a white person, I don't want to go around those places where it looks like it's thuggy or the hood. It's just the last place I want to be. The only other point I wanted to make, and you talked about white on black crime, I can't remember the town. It was somewhere in deep East Texas, a couple of decades ago, where some guys had tied a black individual, I think, on a chain and dragged
James
him through
Earl.
the city.
That was in Jasper.
Jasper, yes, thank you. And that was, I thought, to me, I remember hearing that story, and I was a lot younger then. I thought, man, how horrible, what sick, horrible people would do something like that. And anyone that does anything, it's a disgusting when you do something that's horrible to any other human being, much less when you start bringing the race card in. But I don't want to hang around those communities, and I won't shop in those communities, and it's got to be hurting the small business people because I'm scared for my life. I don't want to be like the girl that happened in Longview. I don't want that to happen to me or my family. So I even tell my family, no, stay out of these communities. Shop somewhere else.
Yeah, and I misspoke. His name was James Byrd. He was 49 years old, and he was murdered in 1998. And the two guys that tied him to the truck and drug him for 3 miles, they both already got the death penalty. So even when the rare white on black hate crimes happened, we picked them up. We put them straight in the chair as fast as we could. Heard lethal injection. It was just being a metaphor there. And we don't stand for that, and rightfully so. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, Donald Trump investigating oil prices. I disagree with that. Donald Trump not signing this new bill that got passed. I agree with that. You'll hear them both next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right, before we move on to Trump news, I think we might have an interesting call on the Sammy Lee situation here. If you're not familiar with that, you know, the Karmelo Anthony trial, yada, yada, all the hubbub about that. There was a hate crime, allegedly, reportedly, whatever, this weekend in Longview, where a little white girl was beat up by a group of black females who were screaming "Free Karmelo." And we are waiting for it to get picked up by the media. It's been a while now. They seem to be really interested in race stories unless it doesn't fit the narrative. That's kind of ugly. So finally, we have an outlet that picked up the story, but they left out all the race stuff, the Free Karmelo stuff, the race of the attackers, race of the perp, the motivation for the crime itself. And Longview Police Department is going to have a press conference at 4 o'clock where we may be able to kick this story off for real. But here's another caller on that topic. Mr. Willie in Dallas. You're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.
Hey, how you doing, Pilgrim? Those other two African Americans that called in a little bit earlier on your line, they didn't get it right. They might be from the hood, but I don't think they had the common sense that the hood has these days and had back then. There's a difference in calling people names and cussing and going on when you get on the radio. So you don't have to do that. You can just talk common sense. And that's all that it takes. So all different kind of races get along. I know I get along with the people that I know. And it doesn't have to be this should be that and this should be that. Go ahead, I got you. And one more thing, Pilgrim. You are right on the edge of being a racist, but I would hate to live on the difference. So I listen to you, and a lot of people of my ethnic, whatever you want to call it, don't listen to this radio, but I just want to hear what other people are thinking sometimes. So I get over here and listen to you. But those other two gentlemen, they just didn't use common sense when they're talking on the radio about the African American person.
Well, good. I'm glad you got to add to the conversation. Now, Mr. Willie, I am not a racist. Now, my definition of racism. I
didn't say you were.
I know. I
didn't hate to live on the difference. That's all.
Okay.
I didn't say you were, and I'm just listening.
But the fact that you were unsure makes me want to address it, Mr. Willie. So just let me say it full-throatedly and as clearly as I possibly can. Racism. Not the woke definition or the critical race theory definition. The definition of racism is the belief that people have certain traits that you can determine based solely on the color of their skin that render them better or worse than other groups of people. I do not believe that. So I therefore am not a racist. I think it is a horribly flawed outlook on life, and it has terrible consequences throughout history. And I certainly do not support that. Now, I will be called a racist on a regular basis, probably for the rest of my life. I've learned to live with that and not try to avoid it. Just walk into it with the acceptance that some people are going to aggressively misinterpret what I say and write it off as racism in order to avoid the points I'm making. That's all, Mr. Willie.
Yeah, well, that's a good explanation for it. But I just want you to know I listen to the radio show, and I very seldom call in. But some people call in and put it all on one subject, you know. I wish we could chest punch like we did 20 years ago or 40 years ago and settle our differences, but we can't do that now.
Mm-hmm.
So
all right.
Got to have a knife and somebody got to have a gun. Have a good day.
Thank you. Glad to have you out there. Thanks for listening, Mr. Willie. All right, let me do this Trump update here because I like it when there's a split. So the pro-Trump crowd can't say I'm a never-Trumper, and the anti-Trump crowd can't say I'm a Trump sycophant. So I'll disagree with him first. The Trump administration is investigating oil prices for gouging, blah, blah, blah.
President Donald Trump says the Justice Department is looking into high gas prices. In a post on Truth Social, he accused big oil companies of price gouging, claiming they didn't lower prices when oil costs fell. The president did not name any companies. Meanwhile, AAA says the national average right now, $3.93 a gallon, nearly 60 cents lower than a month ago.
I hate this. For one thing, I don't believe in a free market that there's even such thing as price gouging. If there's a higher demand and you can charge a higher price, you know what that's called? Economics. If you don't like free market economics, you don't have to put an ugly name to it and call it price gouging. You just don't like it when prices are higher than you think. Well, the market's not wrong. You're wrong. And also, if the oil companies can just so easily control the price, why did they let it get down to $2 a gallon back in December? Why did they have gas at $30 a barrel a few years ago? Why wouldn't they just keep it high all the time? Light their cigars with $100 bills and laugh over the horizon. The other part, I do like this. Some new act was passed. I didn't even look into it. Don't even know. Don't even care. But Trump said he's not signing anything until the SAVE Act is passed. But John Thune says we can't get it through. Well, then I guess you're going to have to work on that.
Senate Majority Leader John Thune has told you many times he doesn't believe that they have the votes to pass it. That's what being a leader's about. You know, he's a leader. John's a leader. That's what being as a leader about. Look, we have to be able to get proof of citizenship when you vote. Otherwise, we don't have elections. We have to be able to get voter ID. So John is a leader, and hopefully he can get the votes.
All right, that I like. We're not going to do anything until we pass the law that 85% of the country supports. 95% of Republicans, 75% of Democrats support this law. We're doing nothing else until that gets passed. Robert and Lucas, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.
How you doing, boss?
Great.
Good. So I think Mr. Willie's comments almost cement what I'm about to say. That, and it starts from the top down, from the government down, that half of our country acts on emotion, half of our country acts on facts and statistics and logical thought. And when you look at how most of the people who are on one side of the aisle or the other, you can kind of pick that out pretty quick. I think one is very emotional and acts on that side of the brain. The other acts on logic, statistics, and reason.
Well, people say that about the other side. People say that they're just running on emotion. Like the Trump is just running on hate. They're impervious to facts and logic and reason. I hear Team Red say that about Team Blue, but I hear Team Blue say that about Team Red.
Well, I think Trump and Team Red, they have a lot of statistics and logic to back up emotion. So just my 2 cents.
Well, I hear that a lot, Robert, so you're not alone. Coming up next on the James Show, the Antifa ICE terror attack. It got some sentences laid down. Quite a bit harsher than Karmelo Anthony got, and no one even died. 800-288-9227. Details next on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, some Antifa terrorists are going to jail for their Texas attack. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. This has to do with, I know there's been so many ICE attacks around here. There was the one at the facility in Dallas, about 3 exits up from where I'm broadcasting right now. There was one down there in McAllen. We're talking about the other one in Alvarado, and the sentencing finally came down. Now, WFAA did a great report on it yesterday.
So we now know how much time several people who are charged in that Prairieland ICE detention center attack from last year will serve behind bars. And tonight we're hearing from attorneys and also family. One by one, the defendants learn their fate.
The government wants to take her entire life away.
And outside the courthouse, supporters and family of the 8 people charged in the Prairieland ICE detention center attack say the outcome felt like another chapter in a case they say has been misunderstood from the beginning.
It hasn't been publicized by the administration. I think they made this out to be something that it wasn't.
Combined, the 8 defendants were sentenced to 450 years in federal prison for their roles in the July 2025 attack outside the detention center in Alvarado after a protest turned violent.
Hey, stop!
The group's leader, Benjamin Song, was sentenced to 100 years in prison. He was found guilty of attempted murder for shooting and injuring an officer. His mother shared these written words from him.
This is mass punishment. This is collective punishment. This is guilt by association. This is injustice.
Supporters say the group planned to shoot off fireworks and show support for detainees.
This was an egregious attack on federal and local law enforcement officers.
But prosecutors labeled the incident as domestic terrorism, alleging Antifa operatives planned and carried out the attack to target ICE agents.
It was a planned ambush with the intent to kill ICE corrections officers.
The sentences now close a chapter in a case that has drawn national attention for nearly a year. In Fort Worth, I'm Richard Solomon.
Dude, Richard, I know you went and got families' statements of the criminals, of the terrorists. Did you not go get some statements from the families of the victims? We didn't get to hear from them. We didn't get their side of the story. And how, with a straight face, they said they were just going to fire off some fireworks in support of the detainees. How do you even say that with a straight face? How does that support the detainees? Has that ever happened? Have you, in your life, have you ever heard a story about setting off fireworks in order to show support for detainees or prisoners in any facility at any time in any point in history ever? Like, it's just a ridiculous thing, and they just say it like it's the most normal thing in the world. Here's the other thing that kind of ticks me off about this. I thought, I'm not trying to irritate you. I'm not. But the news last night, if you want to link up the big networks, ABC, NBC, CBS. How much time do you think they spent on that last night? 0 seconds. 0 minutes, 0 seconds. 0.0. When it happened last year, remember this was on the 4th of July. Hey, thanks a lot, people that love America. So patriotic. They all ignored it except for the CBS Evening News. They reported on it for 25 seconds. 25 seconds was the entirety of the network evening news coverage of this last year. 0 seconds of it this year. So they talk about how they're concerned about hate crime or violence or whatever. But Antifa can shoot a cop in the neck, almost kill him, have a planned ambush, and they ignore it. They ignore it. And look, it's not like they didn't have time. It's not like yesterday was such a busy news day. They just couldn't squeeze it in, because we're at war and we have the budget or there was a bill or no. They had plenty of time to report on other trivial stories here. Here's some other things that they deemed more deserving of coverage than an Antifa terror attack on ICE agents in your neighborhood. On ABC, they reported on an RV chase. There was a cop chase with an RV near Florida. Isn't that fun? They also had the story of an Amazon driver driving on a customer's lawn. There's a little viral video at that. Can you believe what you see here? Let's not talk about the Antifa terror attack where they shot a cop in the neck. Let's talk about an Amazon driver boo-booing your St. Augustine grass. They had the story of an 18-wheeler that flipped over and it was full of like 400,000 bees. On CBS, they talked about a 13-year-old who fell 50 feet after exiting a Disney ride. He exited a little too soon. They had the story of a sad dog that went viral from a Miami Marlins game. No time for the Antifa terror attack where they tried to murder a cop. No time for that one. Oh, no. Oh, what a cabal of 11, or at least 9, probably 11 early in on it. Terror cell of Antifa shoots a cop. No, let's not talk about that. On NBC, they mentioned that falling teenager from the Disney ride. They had another item on the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pond. The Miami Heats traded for the guy from the Bucks, Giannis. But nothing about the Antifa terror attack. TV News actually took a break from the reflecting pool. For the entire week before that, newsbusters.org did a study here, and they counted it up. From June 14th to June 22nd, 2 days ago. You want to know how much time these people spent on the boring, totally ineffective, when I say ineffective, doesn't affect you or anybody on the planet. The story on the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool. When you add it all up, 7 hours of airtime. You know how much that is in TV news? I've been a news anchor before. I've worked at several stations, not just a one-off. And you really have 22 minutes of airtime to squeeze in a 30-minute broadcast. And a little bit of that's taken up with what they call the interstitials and the intros. So you really have maybe 20, maybe 21 minutes, and every minute of that is gold. And when you're in the editorial meeting and you get assigned what your topic of the day is, you fight. You're like, I need 2 minutes. I can't do this in 1 minute. I need 2 minutes. I'll give you 90 seconds. They fight over seconds. Because you have millions of dollars on the line. You have all these other things that people can watch, and you have to make sure every second is as compelling as possible. I know because I do it in radio for 3 hours. And they're dropping all that on the floor because you can't tell me the Antifa terror attack is less compelling than the sad dog at the Miami Marlins game or some Amazon driver who boo-booed your lawn. So, I'm glad they're going to jail. The sentences are nice and long. Maybe this will be a lesson to future people who are thinking about that. But the one person got 30 years in prison. 5 people got 50 years in prison. And one of the leaders got 70 years in prison. The big ring leader, Benjamin Song, 100 years in prison. So, hope he doesn't be planning any more terror attacks. Coming up next, the Mavericks are in the draft. Donovan Lewis from The Ticket's going to tell you who they got and if it's going to be a big deal and worth paying attention to. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, the Dallas Mavericks are in the draft. They did their first pick. I've never heard of them. I don't really keep up with basketball that much, but Donovan Lewis does. My next guest, he's from The Ticket, world's most dangerous midday show. So, Donovan Lewis, tell me, who do we get in the draft? I think it's Monday. Well, Donovan, going into the draft, what was the Mavs' weakest link? What was the biggest need that they needed to fulfill? The I was looking at the Mavericks draft history, and our first round pick hasn't been so great. Now, Cooper Flag, obviously that's going to work out. I think the last good first round pick we had before him was what? Jalen Brunson, and that's almost 10 years ago. He was a second round pick. Okay. Who's our big guy going into the year? All right, we're talking with Donovan Lewis from The Ticket. Morez Johnson Jr., is he going to be a starter on day one? Wow. Yeah, somebody's got to box out and get a rebound every once in a while. Donovan, does this make us a playoff team again? How you enjoying the World Cup? Are you much of a soccer fan? Well, I actually have a soccer background. I grew up playing soccer. I played soccer in college. It was D2, so nothing special. I was in no danger of anywhere near going pro. But I've played so much soccer, and I haven't watched it much in adulthood. I just don't watch a whole lot of sports in adulthood. But all I got to do is turn it back on, and I know exactly what that feels like. I know exactly how fun that can be. I know I can just plug in real easily with the fans. I just don't know all the storylines and all the names. I mean, I know the big guys and whatnot, but yeah, I'm really enjoying the tourists because we get a lot of them around here at work because we're at the American Airlines Center. And it's really cool. We just got to cycle through. Like there was the Dutch, and then there was the Croatians, and then what are we dealing with now? The Japanese kids were here for a bit. So yeah, it's been really fun. Yeah. Yes, and for non-soccer fans, kit is their secret word for shirt. Yeah, jersey. Yeah, so next game here in Dallas, Japan versus Sweden tomorrow, and then there's another game on the 27th, Jordan versus Argentina again. So we'll see the Argentinas a couple times. All right, well, thank you very much, Donovan Lewis, for breaking down the NBA draft. If you can't listen to WBAP and you absolutely have to turn the channel, you are allowed to go listen to the ticket. So thank you, sir. All right, that's Donovan Lewis from The Invasion. Catch him right after the morning show, and I think they make him do like 9 hours a day now. It's really long. Coming up next on the James Show, a little bit more about the World Cup experience here in Dallas. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, we only have a few more weeks of enjoying the World Cup. Whether you like soccer or not, the fans are fun. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. The Norwegian fans have been getting a lot of attention here. They're doing this cool rowing thing. Have you seen them? And it has to do with their rich history and tradition as Vikings who used to row up and down the coast of Europe and up and down the rivers of mainland Europe. And, I don't know, sacking and pillaging and raiding. But what happens here is after the Norwegian win, the team gets in the middle of the field and they get in a couple of rows, like they're on a boat. Then a guy gets in front and he has a big tom drum and a big soft mallet, and he beats the drum and they do a rowing motion. They're all sitting on their butt, right? Well, everyone in the stands in the Norwegian section, they hold out their hand, they hold out their fist. And when the drum hits, they pull back and they lean back and it looks like they're all rowing, but they all do it together. And it's neat because they just go, huh, and it's just a little piece of choreography. But when you see the whole team do it, that's kind of cool. But it blows your mind when they show the big zoomed out stadium camera from above and you see thousands of people. They all speak the same language. It really is almost like a giant family reunion that's happening. It just happens to be with about 7,000 of your closest countrymen. And it's almost chilling to see, you know what? This is what a nation is. This is what a people looks like. And it's really cool, and it's almost haunting because they're not doing some cool choreography that they saw on TikTok, or they're not copying a K-pop band. They're drawing from their own history. It means something. So the camera angle I'm going to use the audio from is the one that was down on the field. It's not the coolest camera angle, but on the field one, you can hear the drum because the drum's down there. But just imagine seeing this from way above and seeing what looks like about 8,000 people just rowing, and they're all doing it in unison. And they're all doing it, 12,000 miles from home? And they gathered here to support their team on the other side of the planet that is representing their small little people group on the world's biggest stage. Remember, Norway, that's the whole country, but it has about the same amount of people as Dallas-Fort Worth. But this is a cool little thing that I've seen this World Cup that's really sticking with me.
Man!
And then they just break out in cheers. It's a whole thing. I don't know. It's so cool. It's so cool to see how so many of these countries have their own thing. They have their own songs. They have their own little choreography. There was a Mets game where a bunch of the Norwegian fans were in the crowd. I guess, hey, we're here to watch sports. Let's watch some more sports. And they're doing their choreography in the stands. Mets hit like a 3-run homer, and they keep panning to the Norwegians in the stands because they keep doing funny stuff. The Americans are just sitting around. We don't know choreography. What are we going to do, the Tootsie slide? So I don't know. I just really been enjoying that. And I'm looking forward to the game. There's a big game tomorrow, Japan versus Sweden. What are we having, like the battle of the best looking fan bases there? That should be pretty good. Can I throw out a grievance real quick? Governor Abbott is on the data center thing. And Governor Abbott, I've just decided this guy isn't, he may have some principles deep down somewhere inside him, but he really is just the consummate politician that sees where the trends are, what will get him attention, what will keep him in a position of power, and we'll just go with that. So I've been confounded about the data center situation because we're the pro-business party. We're the party of technology and moving forward. We don't get bogged down in, what's the environmental impact or what's the renewable resource or anything like that. We build stuff. We go. Somehow, a big chunk of Team Red, big chunk of rural America, just your regular old rural white American Trump voters, are scared of data centers, and it breaks with all of your other orthodoxy. That is the Bernie Sanders AOC position. And it has confounded me how they've scared people into being scared of data centers. Well, Governor Abbott's jumping in front of that, and I just don't like the sound of this at all.
Data centers must bring their own power.
they must reuse their own water, and they must reduce electricity costs for residential customers as well as small business customers. Those are bottom line expectations.
Great. That's fantastic. What you're going to do is you're going to come up with some new rules, and you're changing the game, and they're not going to build them here. They're just going to build them somewhere where they don't have these stupid rules. Do you understand that? You don't get to have the best of both worlds. Do you want the data centers? The reason they're coming here is because we have such a positive, business-friendly environment. We don't have the stupid regulations and hurdles and loopholes that you got to jump through. We don't have all the permitting and regulation and paperwork that California has. And you start adding that stuff to it, they'll go somewhere else. Don't do that. Where on the doll? Show me where on the doll the data centers touched you, people. And I don't mean you listening. You're reasonable. But if we start making all these onerous requests for data centers, they're just going to pull up stakes and invest somewhere else. And somewhere else is going to get that productive capacity. Somewhere else is going to get those jobs, is going to get that infrastructure, is going to get that power. That is economic power. Think of it like a factory. And I know it's easier to think like if you have a factory that's making cars, you can see the Chevy Tahoes coming off the lot, or you can see the blue jeans that are coming off the assembly line, or the pack of diapers, whatever you're making. And it's hard to see data centers like that because their product is intangible, but they are rolling off billions and billions and billions of dollars worth of value through those data centers. You can't see it because you can't touch it, but the virtual world is real. And that is real production. That is real economic growth. That is real GDP that you're going to run off if you start adding all these tips and tricks and requirements and power and water and whatever. Governor Abbott, you don't know how to build a data center better than Meta or Google or Amazon or Microsoft or whoever else. You don't know. The people in Austin, in the state house and Senate, they don't know. Keep your mouth shut. Stay out of it, or you're going to ruin it. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, there was a big meeting at Fort Worth ISD about the Sharia principle. You'll hear some audio from that on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, what did I say? I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I just talked about Greg Abbott wanting to put some new rules on data centers. I was going to tell you about the Fort Worth ISD board meeting, but all of a sudden, all the phones are flooded. I went from 0 calls on hold to all lines are full. What the heck did I say? I don't even know what I said. But now I want to figure out what did I say? Why is everyone calling? This is normal. I didn't say anything abnormal for the James Show. Data centers good, regulation bad, free market good, socialism bad. Is that controversial? Colton and Cooper, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.
Hey, James. Good to talk to you. I think you missed the mark on this. The data centers, conservatives are against these. Conservatives in Texas especially, we are tired of our land being taken for, the betterment of society, eminent domain with lakes and private landowners selling out to the solar panels and now to the data centers. But the thing is, the solar panels, they're ugly, but they really don't affect anything. But that is not the case with the data centers. There's a whole list of things that come with those, and I think conservatives, we're tired of it, and we're not going to have it if we can get away with this.
Colton, are you serious? Are you putting me on?
No, I'm serious.
This is not a conservative position. Putting the power of the politicians to control when and where and how big data centers can be built, that is putting control of the means of production in the hands of the state. That is a socialist position. I'm not making that up. The Bernie Sanders and AOC are on your team. How can this be a socialist position?
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and I understand what is at stake. That is why today we are announcing legislation to impose a moratorium on the construction of new AI data centers until.
Yeah, and he's going to go through and say the exact same things you're saying. Well, there's environmental concerns and the land uses and stuff.
Well,
how did you come away with thinking a socialist position was a conservative position? Who taught that to you, Colton?
Well, I guess he just got lucky on this one, but
no, that's quite consistent.
Yeah, so it's all about the property and the areas that these data centers are going to be placed into, and it is going to transform our way of life as conservatives out in the middle of nowhere where we would like to be.
No, it won't.
Yeah, it will. And the other thing is counties do not have any recourse with these data centers, and the laws have not caught up with all of this things that have transformed. And I'm glad for Governor Abbott stepping up and saying, you know what, we're going to have some regulations, because
Colton, how many? Look, I'm just running out of time, and I have 18 other people on hold, so I want to talk to them too. But you're already fascinating, right? How many data centers is too many? We already have a few in Texas. How many do you think would be too many to have? Give me a number.
I think they can have as many data centers as they want, but they have to be self-sufficient, and they cannot already strain Texas's strained resources.
How many do you think? How many do you think we could sustain without those policies in place?
I don't really think it's a number, though, James. I think it's the location and the setup. And
so, infinity
companies,
as long as we put them in.
Not.
Okay, so what do you think the number we can handle is?
The number that Texas could handle?
Look, my point is, Colton, we have 651 data centers already in the state of Texas. All this negative stuff you're talking about, go to the 651 data centers and show me how it's ruined those areas, okay?
Well, I can tell you from...
All right, I'm going to take some more calls. Look, I don't think I'm going to get through to you today. I hope I planted a seed, Colton, because you called in saying that's a conservative position, and you're 180 degrees wrong on that policy.
Just talk to the county officials.
It doesn't matter what the county official says. It's a socialist position. You're agreeing with Bernie Sanders. It is. Having government control business isn't socialist. That's not free market, is it?
It's not government controlled. It's just going to have regulations like any smart capitalism, and I think that's appropriate.
You're saying like backwards things. Yes, that's going to be dry, just like water. Cameron, Wills Point, you're next up on WBAP.
Yeah, sure. I've got to kind of agree with Colton. I'm a rural landowner, and you have zoning laws in cities that prevent certain businesses from going into residential areas. You have environmental quality laws that regulate the kind of water that we drink, and this is no different, man. Our agricultural people in the state of Texas, land is going away because of urban development, and food and water are going to be a big resource, a big concern in the future. And these guys are going in and they're affecting that. They're affecting our food sources from the producers that are raising food for the country. So I think you need to take another look at this. There's more to this than you think.
No, there's not more to this than I think, and I have looked into it quite a bit. Can y'all just please explain to me how I'm wrong instead of just attacking me personally?
Okay, let me ask you this. So you've got zoning laws in your cities, in Dallas where you're at. You have zoning laws that regulate what can go where. Why are you opposed to that with data centers? I mean, why are you opposed to, water is a big deal. They're talking about tapping into groundwater.
Dude, I'm just going to have to assume you're new to the show. I'm against zoning laws here. I'm consistent. I think zoning laws are stupid. I think zoning laws are like little mini socialism. Whenever you give some politician the power to decide what can and can't be built somewhere, how big it's going to be, what it's going to look like, how much power it's going to use, how much water it's going to use, you are giving him a power that is going to be sold to moneyed interests. You are giving him an avenue for corruption. Now, the free market's not perfect. It's still going to have problems, but its problems are smaller and less deleterious than the problems that come with socialism. And I think the record of economic history, especially over the 20th century, has been crystal clear. The free market is better than socialism. Letting the private sector decide how many data centers are going to be built, where they're going to be built, how we're going to address the water and electricity issues is going to be far more successful and efficient than letting politicians figure that out. Who do you think knows better? Bernie Sanders or Elon Musk? All right, it's going to do it for the James Show. Sorry for all you people on hold. I know you hate me because you love data centers. Work on that. Work on that. You can be better. Mark Levin's next. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, homeowners. James Parker here for Blue Ribbon Roofing. Whenever you need something to be fixed on your roof, you haven't been keeping up with a whole bunch of roofers. It's not like the top 10 movies of the month or the top 10 songs in the country. You don't know the top 10 roofers. You're just going to have to trust somebody. Well, you heard about it on the James Show, and you don't have to just trust me. Go to blueribbondfw.com and click through to the 5-star Google reviews. Not all of them are 5-star. Most of them are 5-star, but go read. Thousands of your neighbors have already gotten a good experience with blueribbondfw.com, and that's how they get it started. You get the free inspection. You go through the process. The biggest pain in the behind is going to be dealing with the insurance company. They can help you with every step of that claims process too. So don't trust me. Go read what your neighbor said, and then go to blueribbondfw.com.